All right, guys, I know how it is. I've been reading the comments. I know what you guys have said. I've read the stuff on Reddit and all the other stuff. I know that everybody's saying, hey, you know, the pace and acceleration sounds good, but where are we going to find players that fast, right? The defensive players are not fast enough. I can't find anybody who's 20 pace acceleration who plays in the back and all this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what we can figure out. We already talked about center backs. Let's talk about defensive midfielders. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here into the Football Manager editor. We'll look at the most recent database for FM23. Remember, I'm a cheapskate, haven't bought FM24 yet, though I suspect the things will be similar. We'll go back over here to people. This is how you look stuff up if you're willing to cheat. Remember, cheaters never prosper, right? We go over here. We want player attributes, positions, and we want to find a defensive midfielder. I'm not going to worry about wingbacks and all that stuff because I don't play with them. If you play with them, you can look this up yourself. You can make your own video. Why not? And you can tell people all about it. We'll look up acceleration. We'll say 17. Now let's see if it'll let me write my numbers. There we go. And we also want to see pace, right? So if I understand the information correctly from FM Arena, pace is actually more important than acceleration, but you kind of need both. It's both that kind of help out the most. When we look up these two, we find a total of 2 players who have pace and acceleration that are 17. One of them is Kwon Jun from Seoul, who doesn't have a team, right? He's a free agent, and I don't know anything about this player. His attributes, let's see, that's person data, I'm sorry. Let's see if we can find this here. Here we go. Physical attributes show that he has pace of 18, acceleration of 17. These are fairly good attributes for a player like this. We can look up his mentals and stuff like that. Lots of sort of zeros here, including 0 for leadership and stuff like that. And, you know, you can sort of figure this out. Consistency, he gets a 0. That may be part of his problem. But this is one of the 2 players that you have who fits this characteristic. The other one is Mohammed Hassan. So we'll take a look here on Mohammed Hassan. He is playing with Ismaili Sporting Club, which is, where is this, in Egypt? So yeah, there you have it. If you're going back, you have to go back over here. I hate this system. Whatever. Take a look here at his physical attributes as well, and there it is: pace of 17, acceleration of 17. So interesting stuff there. He's another fast one, but that's it. In the entire opening of the game database for FM23, you have 2 players at defensive midfield who have pace and acceleration of 17. So in other words, when your scouts come back and they can't find anybody who's got that 20 pace and acceleration at defensive midfield, never fear. They don't exist, right? Don't worry about it. It doesn't mean you can't make them. What you want to do is you want to figure out what a good training system is so that you can get these guys trained up and get them to play faster and play up to their potential. But the fact that they don't exist at the beginning of the game doesn't mean that you can't do anything. In fact, look at this. They are also the only players who have 16s for both of these ratings. Well, let's look up and see what we have for 15s. And then we have 1, 2, 3 other players added on. So that's kind of what's going on. Now, we know about Owen Otasoe because we played against him just the other day at Club Brugge. And who else do we have? We have a couple of other players that I'm not entirely familiar with, who are African players who have that 15 for pace and acceleration. And so, the thing that all of this means for us when we're looking at this, when we're doing our scouting and looking at different players, is that if you're talking about a guy who's got a 14 for pace and a 14 for acceleration who's playing defensive midfield, you're talking about a guy who's probably in the top tier of defensive midfielders. Anything that's above that, like 15 or even above that, is going to be the best. And what that means, and this is the important thing to learn, is that when you're doing your scouting for this particular position in particular, if he's 14 pace, 14 acceleration, or above that, that's good. And now you need to look at the other things. You need to look at his heading ability. You need to look at some of the other meta tactics that are out there, and ask yourself, okay, well, which one of these meta tactics, meta attributes, you need to ask yourself which one of these are important, what comes next. Probably, especially since he's defensive midfield, you need to look at heading ability. and let's get the guy with the best heading ability we can, given that he's got that pace and acceleration that we know is near that top tier. So that's sort of the way that I would structure this, right? You've got to remember, and there are people like me who will forget this, you got to remember that you're dealing with like a finite set of players that are out there. I don't know how the new gens are. I would be really surprised if the new gens started cranking out guys with 19 pace, 19 acceleration playing in that position, right? What you have to do is you have to keep in mind that you're probably not going to find the perfect player. You want to find a player who is young, who's good enough, and who has room to grow, who then potentially could become faster for you, and who also is good at other things, has other good attributes, right? So the way that this works is not just that pace and acceleration rule everything. If you're watching this Augsburg save and you watch me lose from time to time, you lose like it's going out of style, what you'll notice is that we have players who are fast, yeah, but there's a lot of holes in their game. There are a lot of things that they don't do that they need to do. When you're at that highest level, you've got to make sure that you not only have the speed, you need the speed, we need to make sure you have some of the technique and you have some of the other things as well to allow you to compete with players who already have the speed and who have those other things going on. So there you have it. When you're looking at either center backs or defensive midfielders and you're looking for speed, you need to keep this stuff in mind. Center backs, you're probably going to find a few more players who have 15-15. For defensive midfield, that's where you're going to find the slower players, right? Somebody who's 14 pace, 14 acceleration, and who's like under 20 or under 21 is the sort of player that you really should get, especially if he's looking good in some of the other attributes. And like I said, especially you want to pay attention to heading ability, because that's the thing that my team sucks at. You need that for midfield because you'll win a lot of those 50-50 balls, and you won't be like us where you end up missing it and then the other team gets a shot on goal and then I get really upset on camera. So there you go. Hopefully this is at least somewhat helpful to you. Keep in mind that every position is different, but that doesn't mean that pace and acceleration are not important. The game might tell you that it's not important for defensive midfield, but it is. So make sure you keep that in mind. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.